Planning Commission Citizen Advisory Committee, City of Lowell, Michigan, for our regular meeting on Monday, December 9th, 2019. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sue, roll call, please.
Commissioner Chambers,
Here.
Commissioner Ellis,
Here.
Commissioner Gadula,
Here.
Commissioner Plank,
Here.
Commissioner Schraven, here, Commissioner Cadwalder is absent, and Chair Barker.
Here. Do I have a motion to accept Ken Lawler's absence tonight, please?
So moved.
And support? Support. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Stands approved. Do I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
Second.
And discussion, I would like to make an amendment to it to move the site plan review for 312 East Main Street Superior Loss up underneath number 4. And having said that, with any other discussion, all in favor of approving the amended agenda, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The agenda is approved. Do I have a motion for the approval of the minutes from November the 11th, 2019, our regular meeting?
I'll make that motion.
And support?
I'll support.
And discussion, please. All in favor of accepting the minutes as written, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are accepted. Thank you. Is there anybody in the public who wishes to speak on an agenda item that is not on the agenda? If not, we will proceed then to the site plan review for 312 East Main Street, Superior Lofts. And I would like to invite, I'm getting there. Brent Slagle?
Yes.
Would you come on up and just give us your name, address, all that good stuff, and then quickly, for, just a couple minutes, just tell us what you want to do up there, in your words.
Hi, my name is Brent Slagle. I live just out in Lowell Township at Cumberland Ridge, but own the property across the street at 312 East Main and also 318 East Main. I purchased the building in 2011 and then sold it. And then just this year, I bought it back. And we moved the furniture store back in. And we bought it back with the intention of developing the upstairs, which is why we're here tonight. So what we'd like to do is take the building and put 12 residential units in the upstairs, 11 two-bedroom units, one one-bedroom unit, and demolish part of the back of the building that's old, dilapidated, and kind of falling down, and to create the parking that we need to go with it. We've reached out to MEDC for a community revitalization program grant, and we have received a letter of interest, which is as far as I can take it at this point. So I'm in the process now of going through the MEDC checklist. One of those checks is site plan approval. And honestly, this is my last check. And that's just because this is when the meeting was. So we've pretty much got everything else done. I've got the historic. We've got the historic district's approval for all the changes to the front and have been awarded a facade grant, which is another check that I need for the CRP grant. This has to have a significant local contribution, so that's done. So basically everything on this project, after about 6 months of working on it, is done, except the site plan approval. So that's what we're here for tonight, is to hopefully get that tonight.
Okay, thanks, Brent. Well, we may call you back with questions, but
Okay.
we'll go from there. Okay?
Okay.
Andy, would you please walk us through this?
Yep. So this is a little bit different from what you typically see for a site plan review because it's a portion of the building that has a use in it. And the building actually spans 2 properties, as Brent mentioned. So the building spans both 312 East Main and 318 East Main. 318 East Main is on the corner, that's where Big Boiler is. And 312 East Main is directly across the street from us here. As he mentioned, the ground floor is the furniture store, and then the upper floor is presently vacant. And so it's just that portion of that parcel, it's just a portion above 312 East Main that would contain these 12 units. The property is zoned mixed use. I know a bunch of you weren't on the planning commission at that time, but a few years ago when the mixed use district was developed, we very intentionally wrote it to permit and encourage mixed use and residential over retail and that kind of activity in the downtown area or near the downtown area. Just kind of walking through our kind of checklist here that we do for site plan reviews. The dimensional requirements don't really apply because this is an existing building. If they did, they would be met anyways because there really aren't any setbacks for the property. It's pretty much zero for the front and the sides. There's no real changes except for the parking lot as far as, constructing new buildings. So while there are some parking lot landscaping standards involved, other landscaping is not required. Same goes for lighting. Most of the site plan review you'll find deals with the parking lot behind the building. So right now, getting into parking, the site, there's about 37 spaces on the east side of Big Boiler, and then what's being proposed here is adding additional parking behind the building. So right now, there's kind of a loading area / driveway back there. It's kind of undefined as far as what it's supposed to be used for. I think it gets used for parking now, even though that's not really its intended purpose. So he is proposing to add 39 spaces behind that building there, which you can see on the second page of the site plan submittal that was provided here. The ordinance requires two spaces per unit for apartments, so this would be technically multifamily residential is what we would call it in zoning parlance. So he would need 24 spaces. He's got 39, which exceeds the minimum, plus being in that mixed-use district, you can count the parking spaces within 400 feet, public parking spaces within 400 feet towards the minimum as well. So the quantity of parking is not an issue here. The ordinance also requires one of those landscaped islands per 20 spaces. And so that would mean that he needs just one, and one is proposed. Although I would add that he also has some islands that are up along, I think it's 10th Street in the back. He's got a couple islands located along there too, so as far as I'm concerned, he's exceeding that standard as well. The only thing I did notice with regard to parking is that the ordinance requires that those drive aisles be 24 feet wide. The site plan shows them at 22. There are a couple things that can be done with that. One of them is that you can just make the parking spaces a foot shorter, which would be permissible under the terms of the zoning ordinance. So right now, I think the actual spaces were 9.5 by 20 or something like that. 9 feet 8 inches by 20. So he could go 9 feet 8 inches by 19 and get the extra 2 feet on each end that way. Or you could alternatively extend that parking area a little bit to the east and just kind of pull it out that way. Whichever way works best for the applicant is fine as far as we're concerned. It's a fairly minor detail overall, but the ordinance says what it says there. As far as signage is concerned, the first page of the site plan, which shows a rendering of the building, does have a wall sign there that just says Superior Lofts. That should be fine. We'll take a more detailed look at that when the application comes in for a sign permit. That's a separate application. And so we would make sure that with Big Boiler and other uses in this area, that building is covered as far as how much square footage of signage it can have. Like I said, I don't have any major concerns. It didn't set off any red flags. The big issue that might come up, I think, would be the area. So if it ends up being a little bit too big, we might have to require it be a little bit smaller. So we'll kind of see what happens when we get to that point. As far as stormwater is concerned, most of the site is impervious now. The only part of this area that is actually increasing in impervious area would be right on the east side of the site, so where he's extending the parking lot kind of towards the east. He's adding about 13 feet of asphalt to an area with its existing grass. So it's relatively small, and it's mostly offset by the islands that are proposed along Kent Street and the one island behind Big Boiler. So doing the math, it probably nets out to about 0. I did ask Dave Austin at our office about that. He was said that one, the change is fairly minimal, and two, if there are any stormwater problems on the site, they would be limited to his site, so he wouldn't be affecting the neighbors or anything like that. And he did not feel that additional detail was required, and there was nothing here that was suggesting that this was going to be a problem in his view. Refuse, there is a dumpster shown on the site plan as well. This is on the other side, along Kent Street. It kind of butts up to the Lowell granite property. There's one dumpster there shown kind of along the sidewalk with a 5-foot high chain link fence with those privacy slats in it. Location-wise, it's fine. The ordinance does not have any standards as far as where exactly it has to go. Just in looking at it, I think it might make it a little bit easier for pedestrians if that thing was scooched to the north by maybe, I don't know, a foot, 2, just to provide a little bit of room there. And then, of course, with dumpsters, I think most of our other applicants with dumpsters propose like a shadow box fence or a privacy fence or something that looks a little bit nicer than the chain link ones, and they're usually 6 feet tall instead of 5. So that is kind of up to you as far as what you want to do there, but if you want to require specific materials or a specific height, you certainly are welcome to do that. Questions so far?
Questions, anybody?
Okay.
Okay.
Next, we'll just walk through the site plan review standards from the report pretty quick. And Mr. Chairman, you just want me to stop at each one?
Why don't we stop with each one and we'll ask questions at that point and take a vote.
So the first one says, uses proposed will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. Uses and structures located on the site shall be planned to take into account topography, size of property, uses on adjoining property, in relationship and size of buildings of the site. And it goes on to say that the site shall be developed so as not to impede the normal and orderly development or improvement on surrounding property for the uses permitted in this ordinance. Again, this is kind of a new use on the property, so before it was just retail, so now there's kind of a mixed-use component here. However, there's no changes to the building itself except on the inside and some other minor changes on the outside. If anything, the way I see it, this is going to make that whole block quite a bit better. The parking situation will be improved. I don't know if it's an issue now, but if it is, it'll be better because he's providing quite a bit more parking, and I'm sure some of the folks from Big Boiler might also use that, which we'll get into here in more detail in a minute. So those are my comments.
Okay. Commissioners, any thoughts on A, on the site plan review standards? Anything that you see there? All in favor of accepting the standards as is, please say aye.
Aye.
Accepted.
Item B, safe, convenient, uncongested, and well-defined vehicular and pedestrian circulation shall be provided for ingress and egress points and within the site. Drives, streets, and other circulation routes shall be designed to promote safe and efficient traffic operations within the site and at ingress and egress points. Overall, the site is along Main Street. There's a sidewalk there, obviously, and on-street parking. There's an improvement shown along Kent Street as well, which we like as a sidewalk running all the way along the back of that property to the Lowell granite site now, which is great. Again, like I said before, the layout's functional. I think it's overall a pretty significant improvement to that block. Layout's functional.
Andy, so they're saying, and again, excuse me, but we're looking at this for the first time. So, but they are saying sidewalk all the way through the granite, all the way down.
All the way to so it wouldn't go through Lowell granite site to Monroe. This shows it stopping at the property line, it looks like. And I think there's a driveway there because Lowell Granite there's a little driveway in a building he's got back there. So I don't think that continues all the way back, if I recall correctly.
Did they ever put the sidewalk in back there? Because they were, we,
Can I go double check? I think so.
Yeah, we have requested it.
yeah. So
Because
I don't remember seeing it, so it just, until Brett brought it up, I don't remember seeing it.
I'll have to double check.
Thank you.
And does it include all of the big boiler existing going all the way there?
The site plan doesn't show it going all the way down to the street, but the drawing doesn't go that far, so Brent, is that sidewalk on Kent gonna go all the way down to the corner?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions then on the standard B? The only question then we have is with the sidewalk and the extensions to the corners. Right?
Yeah, because we requested.
Pretty sure we did
Yeah.
request that because they had that dumpster down there and they kind of had to go around it.
Yeah.
We're looking at trying to expand that street, which this does really a nice job of.
Correct. That's what
And as
we
long
were
as we're
trying to
doing it, it would be good to have
That's what
all.
we were trying to accomplish with
Exactly.
to start.
Yeah, and that way it allows better bike traffic, walking traffic between sidewalks and between parking areas all the way around. That was the idea.
Different.
At any rate, Commissioners, all in favor of accepting standard B, please say aye. Standard B is accepted.
Item C, the arrangement of public or private vehicular or pedestrian connections to existing or planned streets in the area shall be planned to provide a safe and efficient circulation system for traffic within Lowell. And we kind of already talked about this, but again, the sidewalk improvements, I think, help a lot. The overall circulation is better for the property than it was before, in our view. It's obviously well connected to the city's street network since the property is bounded on two sides by streets and it's part of a typical city block.
Commissioners, any?
This is V.
C. C. Yeah.
I do have a question on, I don't know if this is the correct time, but why, if he owns both properties, maybe it's a question to him, is the parking not connected to the big boiler parking? There's a land,
I would think that's an elevation.
is it? Is
Yeah,
it?
it drops off a few feet from the big, it runs down a little bit.
Tried to look on a satellite image and I was like, why aren't they connecting it? But, okay, that answers it.
Okay. Bearing that in mind, then the arrangement, or review standard C, any other concerns about it? All in favor of accepting C as written, please say aye.
Aye.
Item D pertains to the removal or alteration of significant natural features, and that such removal shall be restricted to those areas which are reasonably necessary to develop the site in accordance with requirements. And Planning Commission requires that approved landscaping, buffers, and green belts be continuously maintained to ensure that proposed uses will be adequately buffered from one another and from surrounding public or private property. It's a pretty simple one. The site's developed. The ordinance requires some landscaping for the parking area, which I think has been satisfied. And obviously, ongoing maintenance of that would be a condition of approval.
Commissioners, any questions on that? All in favor of accepting the standard, review standard D, please say aye.
Aye.
Item E, satisfactory assurance shall be provided that the requirements of all other applicable ordinances, codes, and requirements of the city of Lowell will be met. I mentioned the Historic District Commission in my report here. It sounds like that's already been approved. The only other comments we had on the site plan, and we can get into this a bit more in the conditions, or the circulation of the parking lot. It looks like, in the past, this has been used for loading and unloading of materials, probably for both big boiler and for the furniture store. And so if there's any potential issues for, any conflicts or circulation problems with delivery trucks, things like that. If people are parked there, that might be something that we would want to take into consideration moving forward with our conditions.
E then, Commissioner? Any other thoughts?
You're talking about the width of the curb cuts coming in, correct?
Well, that and just the overall layout of the site. So typically, as much as possible, the loading areas
Right.
are separated from the, customer or resident parking
I mean, I
when
think-
it's possible.
right,
It's not always possible.
I run my semi into a lot of these little parking lots, and it just looks pretty tight in there. I don't know how you could open it up a little bit more, but because Kent Street's pretty narrow, try to back up 53 footer in.
Yep.
Does Big Boiler get their deliveries on 53, or are they doing them on the small trailers?
Our deliveries come in usually on like a Gordon Foods truck.
Right, the little trailers.
Yeah, I don't know the length, but they're not 53.
So then the home furnishing store, that's probably coming in on 53s.
I know his delivery trucks are not. They're smaller trucks, and we did go over this with Ken to make sure that he had room to drive in, essentially drive in the Big Boiler side and have room to make that turn and then back up into his loading dock, and he was comfortable with that. A 53 footer would have to come straight in off of Kent Street all the way.
Right.
down.
Yep.
I'm not gonna say he never does, maybe on some of his bigger deliveries, but I know his delivery trucks are the smaller ones and won't have any problem maneuvering up in there. And there really isn't any conflict with parking while the truck is there at the furniture store because there's no parking spaces back there. And then the conflict with the parking spaces at Big Boiler are very minimal, and our trucks are there for usually 15 to 20 minutes. And as of right now, the only people that park in those spots are employees. So it's really kind of a situation where we only have this much space, and we've got to create parking and have loading, and it's just kind of the fundamental thing that we're dealing with. So there's going to be a little bit of that there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look out for your tenants,
Yeah, I guess I can't say there'd never be a situation where there's a 53-foot truck parked at the furniture store where the cab didn't stick out past a couple spaces.
Okay.
That could potentially leave somebody trapped in really only about one of those spaces, because the ones in the middle, they're gonna have an exit out to the east.
The other thing that could be done, there are a couple of things on parking that I was thinking about. One is that for the tenants, the people living there, they're most likely to be affected by that because the trucks come probably while people are going to be there early in the morning or something. Could designate some of the spots closer to Lowell Granite to be for the residents, and then maybe the employees could park closer to where the trucks would be, just so you might minimize that conflict there. And then the other thought I had is that in the future, if these get sold, if the portions of the building or something get sold separately, it might make sense to have some kind of official written shared parking arrangement between the two properties. Since you own both of them now, you can do it pretty easily, obviously, but just to make sure that moving forward, there's some formalized agreement there, and so it might save us all.
You're talking about the 9 spaces that are kind of split between the 2 parcels?
Yeah, primarily, and we all kind of know how these things go. I mean, people who live there their guests might park on the Big Boiler side, or the Big Boiler customers might park over on the other side, and I doubt anyone's going to be running over there inspecting license plates and so forth. So
Yeah, it happens now.
yeah, exactly. So I think just to head off any potential issues, there might be some benefit to a pretty straightforward shared parking agreement for that.
The other thing, how many, I believe it should be 2 handicap parking spots?
Yeah, he's got 3 of them on here. Right behind the apartments, right by Lowell Granite, there's one that's labeled barrier free. And then,
I can't read this little tiny ass right.
There's 3 of them on.
yeah.
Oh, there it is, yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right. I think there's 2 required for that size. I don't remember off the top of my head. 3 is definitely enough. So like I say, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the quantity is not really the issue with the parking,
Right.
it's just some of the logistical issues that we'll want to make sure can be.
Taking out a couple of spaces to accommodate the trucks, would that help at all? I mean, if there was some of the spaces just allowing you to give some more space.
I mean, potentially, and that, I mean, I think that might help from a circulation perspective, so if the furniture truck's got to get something turned around in there, and that would help because you might have a little bit bigger turning radius. If that island, for example, was moved to the south a little bit, that might help to just make that a little bit more open.
Because
But,
it's got
yeah,
more than enough parking spaces,
Yeah.
which is nice. and
Yeah,
it's
quantity
great.
is great.
Yeah.
There's no issues there.
So it's the spacing more than the quantity in this situation,
Yeah,
which is
so-
unusual.
Right. So at the same time, if, you know, I'm not a truck driver, so I would defer to
Marty drives one all the time, so.
Marty or.
I'm just thinking that if there was a couple less spaces around in that turnaround area, that it might help the entire flow. Whether or not people do park there anyway,
Right.
at night or whatever, to go to Big Boiler, you can see that happening, but we don't care at that point.
Right.
Can we solve part of that problem by one of Andy's earlier points about us only having a 22-foot spacing? If we expanded that to 24 and push that parking 4 foot further to the east, that kind of opens that up a little bit.
Yeah,
We can
well, I
maintain the number
think,
of
yeah, you
spaces.
want to do that for sure.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking closer to the building, closer to the warehouse, or, you know, to the dock area there, if you take out a couple of spaces, it just creates a little bit more space for
Right,
trucks.
so we did take this to Ken at
Mhm.
the furniture store and
Yeah.
reviewed the dimensions with him with his truck. As far as can they get in and out, he didn't seem to have any problem with it, so.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was actually more concerned about the number of spaces overall as well. So I mean,
Yeah.
to sacrifice spaces to make it a little bit better for the truck when it's already sufficient, I'd hate to trade spaces for that.
Okay.
And the truck traffic shouldn't, it's not coming and going throughout the day, it's
Right,
like you're there
right,
for
yeah.
a half
No,
an
I
hour and
was
you're
just
gone.
thinking, now he's got probably no space.
Early in the morning, I would assume.
Right.
Yeah, at Big Boiler, most of the trucks are in and out by 6 a.m.
It would be a great idea though to make that 24 instead of 20.
Yeah, I'm making a note on that. I think
Yeah.
instead of shortening up the spaces, maybe
Yeah.
if we can pull that 4 feet over. The only issue that I can see that possibly bringing up is, Andy, you spoke about the amount of impervious area. We were expanding that by 4 feet. Is that going to be a problem with the items that we
I
have?
don't think so. I mean, you've got to be pretty much at a wash right now between adding the islands and removing the 13 by 116 foot spot. I mean, you're adding a little bit of impervious area, but it's not, I don't think it's so much that it's going to be causing a bigger problem. You can have storm drains on it anyway.
Okay. That was on the standards, E, then satisfactory assurance.
Yep.
All the other commissioners, any other questions on that? All in favor of accepting E, please say aye.
Aye. The last standard, item F, is the general purpose and spirit of this ordinance and the comprehensive plan of the city of Lowell shall be maintained. There's two parts of that, so as far as the ordinance goes, I mean, honestly, the mixed-use district was written with exactly this kind of project in mind, so this is the absolutely perfect fit for that district. You know, we're supportive of residential activity, people living downtown. It helps support the businesses, the shops, the restaurants, the services, the public facilities, all that kind of stuff. So that's all consistent, and the master plan is similarly talks about some of those same concepts, residential or retail, downtown development, things like that. So in our review, this is very consistent with both the zoning ordinance and the city's master plan.
Commissioners, any questions on the F for the site review standards? All in favor of accepting, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Accept them. We're going to go to the recommendations, Andy, and
Yep.
just kind of go.
Yep.
Yep. We can share.
You hear me?
So I'll kind of walk through roughly there's 9 conditions shown on the report here. The first 3 are the conditions we put on everything. So no demolition or earthwork shall be undertaken on the site until a building permit has been issued. Prior to the issuance of any city permits, the applicant must pay all their fees. These must comply with all city, county, state, and other applicable regulations. 4, signage must be submitted to the zoning enforcement officer for review prior to installation. We mentioned that earlier. The drive aisles will be 24 feet wide is number 5. Number 6, the lighting fixtures shall be submitted for review prior to installation. There's a few light poles shown on the site plan. The height is fine, they're 12 feet tall, so the ordinance just requires that they be the cutoff style fixtures. So that's just something like a simple cut sheet of the fixtures is enough for us to make sure that it's the right type. The Planning Commission may establish delivery or loading hours to minimize potential conflicts with delivery vehicles, which we've been discussing a little bit just now. Similarly, number 8, the Planning Commission may require the applicant to develop a shared parking agreement for 312 and 318 East Main, not 316. And the last item, the Planning Commission may require a greater enclosure height and specific materials and location for the dumpster enclosure. So, as I said previously, if you prefer to see the shadow box or privacy, a wood privacy fence instead of the chain link, you can require that, but it's at your discretion.
On the issue of number 9, I think I can make it easier because I didn't draw this site plan, and honestly, I didn't notice that, and I don't like that. So I'm going to just voluntarily change that.
Okay.
Make it higher and.
Move it a foot or 2 away from the sidewalk, do all those kinds.
Do you know what material you would be?
He's got a chain link.
Yeah, probably like a cinder block, like a split face or something like that, you thinking, or?
Is there anything that you'd like to see? I'd like something that looks a little nicer than the chain link. but
Yeah, like a split face, you know what I mean, a split face block.
Rough on the
Yep.
outside, yeah.
And then, I noticed he's also got it tucked right up tight to the sidewalk too, maybe,
Yeah, my guess is he just didn't take his time and put that exactly where it should. When you look at where he's got it located, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, so I think that would probably never end up there anyways, but we can make a note that that should be set back a little bit.
because that dumpster enclosure is gonna handle everybody, all the refuge.
Yes.
So are you sure that a 10 by 6 is big enough for,
That's what we use now, and the only thing we're really adding is the residential from the 12 units, which we are expecting to be pretty minimal compared to what we're generating already with the restaurant, the furniture store, and the businesses. So I think the increase is going to be pretty minor, and if it's too much, we can increase the number of pickups, but we wanted to keep that space as small as we could.
Can you make it out of the same material that the back is made out of? Like, get it to match a little bit? Seeing how it's going to be kind of like a privacy sort of fence. If you're standing in the road looking forward, it might
Are you
be,
referring to the
appealing.
lower level,
The back south of the lake.
the Battenwood?
I can't read it either.
This one, I think, is what it's referring to.
Yeah, something, so it sort of, oh yeah, it's built right. You know, I mean, it matches the back architecture. So if you're driving along Kent Street, it would almost be like, oh yeah, that looks normal, it looks appealing, that's trash.
Yeah, actually, I really agree with that. I don't like the chain link.
Okay.
So what if we just go ahead and agree that we'll build that enclosure and the outside of it will match? We're all talking about this area right here in the back,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Battenwood.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can just make it match that, and we got continuity there.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Okay.
If they make it 6 feet tall, that'd be ideal. And as far as the location is fine, as long as the truck can get in there to empty it. I mean, it's like kind of a weird angle.
well, that was the other thing I was looking at, but for a garbage truck to get in there can't be anybody parking in those center on that new parking. But it does work the best for putting a dumpster out.
I mean, they might be able to.
You can always roll it out too, I guess.
You
you could strike that, like a no parking right by that middle island there. So it's a drive-through.
I believe he's got it set up where they're picking the dumpsters up with the truck facing to the tent to the south, so they'd actually be on the street.
Okay. I see the doors, I think.
Yeah, they're kind of angled off there. on the
Right.
Oh, I
south
see.
side.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
So that would be another curb cut.
I think he's already shown the curb cut.
Yeah, there's a curb cut, there's 3 curb cuts for the parking lot. There's one between the dumpster and that island right to the east of it, and then there's, 2 more.
Yeah, the one on the dumpster is actually extended beyond the dumpster towards the granite.
Yeah.
I would recommend that we leave the dumpster issue to Andy, zoning ordinances, and work with the applicant on that.
I agree.
I mean, the applicant certainly doesn't want to have trash sitting around. He wants them picked up in an orderly fashion, and, obviously wants it to look good, so it seems to me as though that's a lot easier than
Here,
here.
yeah, have them.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's
Okay.
fair. And what about the shared parking agreement? Who draws that up? Do you draw it up, or Brian does?
Yeah, the applicant would draw it up and just submit it to us, and I probably take a look at it real quick. But it's just something to kind of formalize an arrangement that would allow either all or some number of people from 318 to park on 312 and vice versa, so we're not.
What was that with Curtis Peters and the Burger King, correct?
Yeah, yep, it was very similar to that, same kind of arrangement. And same circumstances, because in that instance, he owned both of those parcels as well at first, until Burger King bought it. So it would be the same kind of thing if you were to sell, one of those parcels, then, the next owner or the owner after that might have a different idea about how this should work, but rather have it right now.
Yep.
What about number 7 on the delivery loading notes? I have absolutely no clue on what those should be, or
Well,
if we should even determine them, or how's it work?
It's shifting it the way Brett said, will help a tremendous amount.
Do we worry about hours?
We don't.
I can't
I
imagine.
mean, right now, he's got trucks in there at 6 in the morning, or, you said they're done by 6, right?
Yeah, they deliver they have their own key and alarm code, so usually when we get there in the morning, it's already delivered and gone.
I think his tenants will come seek him out if it gets too noisy.
Noisy and all that. I'm okay.
Right,
I'm gonna hear about it either way.
right.
So we'll delete number 7.
I would say just delete it at this point. Commissioners?
Agreed.
Marty, you probably know more about that than anybody else.
I do it
Well, I
every
mean,
day.
just from, your deliveries.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, shifting, doing, it just helps free up. You know. I know it doesn't seem like a lot when you're talking only 2 feet, but it's huge when you're trying to shove 53 in the winter time and people don't always park how they're supposed to.
Yes.
Well, then we can eliminate number 7 entirely.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion then to accept the site plan recommendations as written, with the exception of number 7 being deleted, and the changes obviously to number 9, the height and the materials? Do I have a motion for that?
So moved?
And support?
Support.
And further discussion? Sue, voice vote, please.
Commissioner Chambers,
Yes.
Commissioner Ellis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kaduga,
Yes.
Commissioner Plank,
Yes.
Commissioner Schraven,
Yes.
Commissioner Cadwalder is absent, and Chair Barker.
Yes. Congratulations, the site plan review is accepted.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. Let's go
go on to, there is no old business, so let's go on to the approving of the 2020 meeting dates. Any questions? It's basically the same with the second Monday of the month for 7 o'clock.
First meeting.
What's the work session?
That's tonight. Yeah. We've been blessed. The last 3 years I've been here, we've never had a work session. It's always been an actual session, a working session. So, yeah, the work session would be if we're just working on ordinances and amendments or something like that. Whereas tonight we're actually doing a site plan review, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah. In other words, we can cancel the December 14th if there's nothing on board. Fairly easy. All in favor then of accepting the dates as stated here, please say aye.
Aye.
Dates are accepted. So you'll post them and do all those good things, correct? Thank you. Oh, the one thing that we do need to would be the date in October for the 2 townships and us, the joint meeting.
That's here this year, right?
Yes, it is here. So Sue will set us up on that too. And when you figure roughly when,
Okay.
just send that out to everybody and we'll just add it. Okay, it'll be in October though, I'm pretty sure. That seems to
Yeah,
work.
it usually is.
Yeah, it seems to work pretty well. Okay. Review of non-residential districts. Andy, you're up again.
All right, thank you. So this is kind of our ongoing project. We have 2 because one of them has red on it, and one of them does not. So I apologize when I sent my copy to Sue on Friday to one of the packets. I did not realize that when you save it to PDF, it turns off track changes, so you can't see what I changed, which is not helpful for you guys. So I noticed that today and sent the updated copy so you can actually see what I am proposing to change. So at the last meeting, this is kind of a continuation of our work on the zoning ordinance that we've been doing for quite a while now, just kind of chapter by chapter, section by section, going through everything. We're almost done. So this is kind of the last big block of work here to do. So this looks at the C1, C2, C3, IL, and I districts. So there are 5 districts here, and basically we're just kind of going through everything, reviewing the dimensional standards, the language, making sure that it's clear, the list of permitted and special land uses is what we want, it's in the place that we want. So there are a few things in here that you'll see that I have proposed that we change. Some of it is purely for clarification type purposes. Other items are a little more substantive, which we'll get into in a minute. So I want to kind of start here with chapter 10, which is the C1 district. Since we just went through this like 2 months ago, I'm not really proposing that we change anything. Other than on the table on section 10.04, I'm just adding the word minimum and maximum in the area where it is appropriate. Because as I went through this, 1, I want to be consistent, and 2, it's not really helpful to say that the front yard is 25 feet. Like the minimum, is that maximum, does it have to be exactly that? So in all these cases, it is a minimum. So if someone wants to put their building 30 feet back, that's fine too. Same thing with the rear yard, side yard. One change that I did make for lot coverage, when we carry this forward to all of the districts, that lot coverage is a maximum. And in most of these districts, that 60% includes parking areas, which makes most of these, 1, it makes most of the lots non-conforming, and 2, it's not really practical, and it's been difficult over the years as we've worked on site plans to kind of figure out how to make it work with that weird standard in there. So I am proposing that we eliminate the language throughout the ordinance here in all these commercial districts where it says including building and parking areas. We took that out for the C1 district a couple months ago. So that's going to stay the way it is. The lot area and lot width is going to stay the way it is. So the C1 district is pretty simple. because we just did it a little while ago. In Chapter 11, the C2 district, we have a bit more here in terms of added language. So we added a sentence to the intent statement here that really describes in a bit more detail what development should be like in the downtown. So we wrote that development in this district should be pedestrian oriented and consistent with the established historic development pattern of downtown Lowell in terms of both building design and land use. So a building should be built up to the street. There should be windows, multiple stories, all, kind of having things fit within the character. There's not a lot of vacant property in the C2 district anyways, if any, but if somebody were to propose a building on there, we would want it to match that same type of character. A couple changes here that you'll see we did make is that we added some uses permitted by right, such as residential dwellings in the same building with commercial uses. Previously, that was a special land use. So if you recall, over the years, we've had a few people come in here that want to put like 2 apartments above a building or something like that. You have to come in for a special land use, and I didn't like it then. I still don't like doing that now, just because that's what we want. So we should make it easy for people to do that. So we're proposing to make that permitted by right instead of a special use. So it will still require a site plan in most cases, at least review by myself and Sue and others, possibly in front of you all, depending on the nature of the application. Also added by right mixed-use developments and art galleries and museums. And then just to kind of clarify the language, I think it's easier to say without drive-through facilities for restaurants instead of exclusive of, just because everybody knows what that means. So on section 11.03 on the next page, you'll see that the residential dwellings in the same building with commercial uses has been crossed out because we moved that. And then we also added multiple family dwellings. So if there is a development that otherwise met the standards of the district, fit the fabric of downtown, but was purely residential, I would propose that we would add that as a special use in that district. That is open for discussion, of course, but I think it makes sense.
You're talking about
E. 1103E is adding multiple family dwellings as a special use, and 11.03F is what we moved to the permitted side.
I have a question. This is a beginning question, so to speak. The special land use permits we approved for those apartments above the businesses, would those be null and void now, or do they fall, or do we notify them that, hey, this is now your ordinance, or this is now your district, and these are ground rules?
Not really. It doesn't really affect them because it's not the best phrase, but it lowers the bar, I guess, and that.
Which one does it?
It's less restrictive now, so their situation wouldn't change. They would still have an approved special land use permit and an approved site plan for that use. And so moving forward, if they wanted to change something or make a modification or add a unit, they wouldn't have to go back and amend their special use. They could just do it with a site plan review. So they wouldn't be, this isn't making any extra work for those people.
I guess my concern is, okay, next door guy want to do the same thing, and special land use permit has to do more than this guy.